everybody. Welcome to my first vlog. My name's Heather Mergenthaler and I'm in the Native American Studies class at Flathead Valley Community College. And today I'm going to begin my creative project, which is the 7 Wonders of the Reservation. My purpose behind this project is to visit and learn more about places that I have driven by my whole life but never stopped to explore and learn more about on the reservation. I'm in Polson, Montana, and I'm just going to be hitting some of these places that are on the Confederated and Salish Kootenai tribe land and see what they have put out there for me to learn. My first stop today is going to be Chief Cliff, just outside of Big Arm, and I hope you enjoy what we learn on this vlog and journey. Growing up, I looked at this place and thought, oh, that must be some sort of buffalo jump, but it didn't really make sense to me because it was just so tall and so big, and I thought, what would be left after they jumped off of that place? So we're gonna get the real legends that have come from that site, and I hope that you enjoy learning with me today. You can see the cliff from the highway here, but we're gonna get up closer. Hey everyone, I'm on Kukin Lane, just next to Highway 93. Headed north towards Kalispell. I went through Big Arm, went through Elmo, and I landed here at Chief Cliff, which is tribally owned land up there on the cliff. Just below it is private property, so unfortunately I'm not able to get any closer, and you're gonna have to bear with me as I talk right next to a very heavily traveled highway. So today I want to talk about this spiritual and sacred place that's still used by the tribe today. And I'm going to go through the full legend of Chief Cliff, which was adopted from Indians' Legends from the Northern Rockies by Ella E. Clark. Many years ago, Chief Aeneas, also known as Big Knife, was becoming very concerned. He felt he was losing control of his tribe. A sub-chief was also ignoring the old chief. The sub-chief was giving orders and was not asking for guidance from the chief and the other elders. The old chief was heavy-hearted because of the changing ways and the young people's neglect of him and the elders. One summer, while the tribe was playing games and dancing, the old chief thought about how he could get his tribe's respect again. He dressed in his best buckskin and headdress, decorated his horse in a buckskin saddle and blanket, and rode his horse proudly to the top of the ridge of the cliff. "Hear me, my people," he said. "My heart is heavy with grief. You have forgotten the teachings of the elders. You have forgotten their brave deeds and generous acts. Only luck and misery will come to those who forsake the laws and teachings of the elders of the tribe. Knowing that, I make this my one last effort to remind you of the bravery and wisdom of your grandfathers." When he finished speaking, he turned his horse and began to walk away down the ridge. Suddenly, he wheeled his horse around, tightened the reins, and forced his horse at full speed over the cliff to the rocks. The women started the death wail as the men carried the chief's tangled body off the horse and rocks. At the burial, they spoke of the chief's courageous deeds, his never-ending kindness to his people, and his loyalty to the tribe's laws. We must never forget the old ones or their wisdom and counsel. They said, to this day, the Kootenai remember to treat the old people with respect and kindness. It is said that several years after the death of Chief Aeneas, one of the members of the tribe was looking up at the cliff and noticed the silhouette of the young maiden the chief had loved when he was a young warrior. The maiden can be viewed with her hand reaching out, still grieving for the old chief who gave his life to restore the wisdom and the love of his tribe. So I headed south today, and my next stop is the Bison Range just outside of Charlotte. I'm sure maybe Moise is the name of the town. I headed south and took the turn off for Charlotte, and I'm just pulling here into the park. It looks like there's a fee, and I'm gonna just check this out here. See what happens. as I got into the park, it's not really busy today. It looks like it says entering the fee area. There's restrooms, some outhouses here, and a lot of recreational area, picnic tables. There's some folks over there parked. There was a trail map that I'll stop and look at on my way out of here. So I made it up to the bison range and just bought my $10 day pass and a map. There's a couple of different options to go all the way around the park. One of the trails is a one-way drivable 2-hour drive. The other way is a two-way traffic shorter route. I'm going to take that route today because they said they saw a herd there this morning. So I'm hoping to see some bison here. In 2020, Congress restored this back to the Confederated and Salish Kootenai tribes to take care of the land and to take care of this park. The park was actually established in 1908 by Teddy Theodore Roosevelt. Back in the 1800s, there were millions of bison that roamed the Great Plains. And then because of the pressure from the settlers, the hunters, the fur traders, and the Indians, the habitat became damaged, and the millions of bison actually diminished down to about 100 remaining in the wild. So this park was established as a conservation to those animals and to restore them. So that right now, as of today, there's about 350 to 400 bison that live here on the National Bison Range, and about 500,000 that are found now on public lands. So I'm excited to see some bison today. That was some good facts that I learned. I didn't realize that they were depleted so heavily, down to fewer than 100. That's quite amazing. So I knew that they had diminished because of the settlers and all of that. But so learning lots today. We'll see what we can see. So here's a picture of the map. I'm going to be following this one. The herd was seen at number 9 today, so that's where I'm headed to. Long-standing questions I've had is whether you call them buffalo or bison. I think I've been corrected over the years that buffalo do not actually live in North America, but the woman at the visitor center, the ranger, called them buffalo. So I need to research that a little bit more when I get out of this park, and I will let you know. Bison aren't the only things around here in this wildlife preserve. There is an elk down there, which is very cool. He's huge. Oh, here comes another one. Let's see. You can see him. I'm going to turn this thing around so you can see. out of the park today. I just want to encourage everybody, if you get a chance to come and visit the National Bison Range, I can't help but leave feeling relief and just a sense of happiness that the tribe is in control of this now and in some way is giving back to them a little piece of what was taken. It's a beautiful country, and these large animals that live here and the wildlife, it's just gives me a good feeling to know that it's being preserved well. Just down the road from the Bison Range, I stopped at the Nine Pipe Wildlife Refuge. It's also land owned by the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. It's often mispronounced as Ninipipi. I know that for a fact, living in Polson. I've had customers come in and say, do you know where Ninipipi is? And so I knew it was always pronounced Nine Pipe, but I've never actually been here, which is why I'm doing this research. And it's a beautiful refuge. And as I looked into it, I found out it was named after Chief Joseph Nine Pipe, who was a war pipe holder, a prestigious honor. And they believe that the 9 is for the 9 successful war parties that he participated in, or horse stealing parties. The pipe that he held is actually in the museum, the Nine Pipe Museum that we're going to head to next, and some of the family artifacts will be there as well. The Nine Pipe Museum is my new favorite place. I hope that you all can come in and see it. There's a wonderful audio tour. It was $7 for entering, and I learned so much in here, and there's hundreds of artifacts. It was actually built and opened in 1996 by Bud Sheff, and the reason he opened it is that his family bordered property with a Native American family by the name of Eneas Conco, and they just developed a rich friendship and love for each other. And as Bud grew up, he would hear the full-bloods come over to his house and tell tales. And that sparked his curiosity, and it just grew and grew. And when he was 9 years old, he started collecting artifacts. Joseph Nine Pipe's pipe was actually in here, so I did get to see that and talked about how that was used. I didn't quite understand, but you weren't allowed to get married on the tribe, in the tribe, until you received your coup, which was an eagle feather, and you had to go on to a war party. And so that kind of ties into Joseph Nine Pipe and his 9 war parties. He was the one that would check the medicine in the pipe to see if it was right. And if it wasn't right, they had to wait for the medicine to be right. And when the medicine was right, they would smoke the pipe and do their stealing horses party and the war parties. It also just so happens that there is an ice cream shop and gift shop right here, so I'm gonna go in and get some ice cream. So the St. Ignatius Mission is one of the many boarding schools where the Native Americans were sent some against their will, and others not. But some things transpired here as we're learning. One of the houses here for the Ursuline sisters and the Providence sisters, it did describe the boarding school starting for girls in 1864 and boys in 1906. There's been a number of lawsuits and payouts because of it, and it's really disheartening. And that having this truth come out about this, I think, is the best healing possible for this kind of act. So this is the St. Ignatius Mission, and I am here. So we got our paddle boards all ready to go. I'm not gonna lie, we drove around for 4 hours yesterday trying to find an access point to where we could get in to do this. And I'm gonna give you all a big hint. You take Zelenzi Lane over by Rollins, and it will bring you right down here to this nifty boat to access that we found. It's very small and private, but anyway, supposedly this is gonna get us where we need to go. I'm excited. Whoa, I made it. Here are ancient Native American pictographs. Look at that, so amazing. Trying to get up closer here so we can see them. We did have to hang a left after you leave the boat access from Zelenzi Lane. And it was about, I'd say about a half a mile of paddling, not too far. This is amazing. Look at this. There's the cliff. There's like a little shelf. This is the pictographs that can only be accessed from Flathead Lake. You see the Mission Mountains right there. And we come right up here along this rocky cliff. And there they are. Tally marks. So these drawings are dated back 3,000 years ago or longer. The first people to come and put these writings on this cliff. And they believe that the Salish were the first ones to come upon it about 700 or 800 years ago. And they actually added some of their own ideas and events to this. There are just a number of, you can see tally marks, animals. Yes. And according to a biologist from University of Montana, Morton Elrod, back in 1908 is when science discovered these markings. Here on Flathead Lake, you can see the Mission Mountains. The only way to get here is by boat. So we traveled out here. Some of the things that he and his scientists believe were that there was over 200 different marks as they studied these. And 15 distinct animals. I don't think I can make all of them out, but definitely some of them look like buffalo. And some of the other animals are deer, bison. Some of them, it says, according to Elrod, that there are some with moose antlers on them. He thought also that those little circular oval marks with the straight legs signified some sort of important event. One of the things he noted is that all of the animals' heads were facing to the left and their bodies were facing to the right in all of these. So these cliffs depict animals, people, objects, and the tally marks identify a thing like maybe the order of a ritual of some sort. And when the Salish added to these. It's believed that they performed rituals here, and they would pray, and they would get a sign while they were praying, they would add to the pictographs. So if they envisioned a bison, they would draw a bison. If they envisioned a deer, they would draw a deer. So yeah, very cool here. And I'm so thankful that I got to come out here and see one of the 7 wonders of the reservation. Hey everybody, I'm in Pablo, and I wanted to make a quick stop here because this is the home of the old People Center, which contained a lot of very special artifacts from the Pend Oreille, Salish, and Kootenai tribes. In September of 2020, there was a tragic accident where an individual locked himself inside of the People Center, set it fire, and unfortunately he became deceased, and a lot of artifacts were lost. The tribe is very sad about that, but they were able to salvage some of the artifacts and relocated them to St. Ignatius to the Doug Allard Museum, which is where I'm going to stop next. But just wanted to give a quick history. Now I'm at the Three Chiefs People Center Museum. I'm sitting at another 7 wonders of the reservation. I am at the Salish and Kootenai Dam in Polson, Montana. And before we take a look at the views, I will let you know I have been here before, but I did not understand the impact the dam had on the tribe and the history behind that. So I'm excited to share some of that with you today, and we'll get started off with some views first, and then we'll dig into the history. So I'm just gonna make my way down a million stairs. They're not hard, but that's what you gotta do to get to the bottom. This is the dam, Salish and Kootenai Dam. It did not used to be a dam, but a sacred waterfall. And that was until Frank Kerr came in and promised the tribe light, but that did not pan out for the tribe either. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. After the treaty was passed, the Indians were able to maintain their way of life and culture. They were still sharing, living communally, hunting. All of those things had not been disrupted in any way. But in 1904, a man by the name of Joseph Dixon, he was a businessman and he was also a property owner. He was influential in getting the Allotment Act passed, which was actually made land tracts. And so basically that forced the Native Americans to basically own their own private properties. So that communal sharing then started putting people in their little private sectors of land. After the allotment treaty was passed, Joseph Dixon then moved on to starting up a massive irrigation system to help with the agricultural side of things. And of course, at that time, they were trying to assimilate the Native Americans from hunting and gathering to farming and gardening. And so that was the next step in 1908. And by 1910, the territory had been opened up to white settlers. Now we are all wondering, how did we get here, and how did this disrupt the tribe? Well, we're seeing a natural progression, things that we've already learned about, but I guess what was interesting to me is this irrigation system that was put on changed the whole water table. So you had a lot more Indians farming, and then you had to purchase your food, and it was changing the hunting and gathering way of life to a more of a cash economy. And that's what the Indians were forced to do to survive. They needed to eat, and they were hungry, and the Depression was coming about, and they were needing to get the jobs. And unfortunately, the irrigation system didn't always pan out to the areas that they needed. So it really forced them to change their way of life, and they weren't able to just go off the land and go hunt. They were being harassed for that. They had to stay here, and they thought it was always a manipulation thing, that this is for your benefit, and this making it look really good and then it not panning out. So that's nothing new, but here on the Flathead Reservation, this is kind of how it went down. Now, with the Native Americans trying to adjust to their new way of life and living, and it's just not working out, they're hungry, and it is forcing them to rely on rations from the government. This wasn't their natural process, so I would say that they weren't adjusting well to it. On top of it, nobody was. None of the farmers were. And so in the 1920s, this irrigation project that they had started, none of the farmers could pay the debt on it, and the people that were benefiting from it were supposed to be paying for the project. Well, they went $5 million into debt. Now, with big debt comes the big companies, and Montana Power Company swooped in. The president was Frank Kerr at the time, and he offered a pretty sweet deal to the tribe. He was promising that their electricity would be paid. He met with some of the chiefs and made it look very appealing to them that their people would be helped if they allowed them to build the dam here. And some of the witnesses stated, and accounts were, that he would come in and buy food for tribal members and Native Americans, and they were hungry. And so how could you resist an offer like this? I think that they gave him a name of Light, because they believed that he was going to bring light to their tribe and their community, and it, again, did not play out that way. As far as the dam and the tribe, from what I understand, there were participants and there were resistors. There were tribal members that looked at this as an opportunity to help their people. Others looked at it as, no, this is not something good. We don't want to give up more of who we are. And that still, I think, goes on to this day. And so they went ahead and built the dam. And as far as getting paid, there was no payment being made to them, and they had no advocates that were sticking up for them. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, they called a joke. Finally, there was a gentleman that was able to get a settlement, and I think it was the tribe would get paid $140,000 a year in rent for the Montana Power Company to run the dam and operate it here. I also want to add that the Native Americans, many of them helped build the dam as well. So when I talk about participants and resistors, you know, these were some of the first jobs that they ever had. So the dam played a part in destroying the culture of the tribe here, unfortunately. And but that didn't make the Native Americans stop fighting, and they decided that they were going to get their land back. one parcel at a time. And finally, in 2014, they were able to purchase the dam back for $18.3 million. And so now the dam is named the Salish and Kootenai Dam, and it is owned and operated by the tribe.